Today we'll be going over the 10 most hated NBA teams of all time. Number 10, 2012 and 2013 Los Angeles Lakers. This may be jumping the gun a little considering the team hasn't even played yet, but they'll be hated alright. Guys like Paul Gasol and Steve Nash may be difficult to dislike, but combine the big market city creating a super team with obnoxious fans and then look at the players and you'll see why they'll be hated almost as much as the Heat. You start with Dwight Howard, the superstar center who whined his way out of Orlando and then eventually gutted his team in the process. Not only was he constantly flirting with other teams like the Nets, Rockets, and Lakers, but he also criticized his teammates and former Magic coach Stan Van Gundy. After Howard, looked no further than Metta World Peace, formerly known as Ron Artest. For another player you can hate on, Artest was responsible for starting the infamous Malice at the Palace event that took place in 2004 when he ran into the stands and started beating up a fan who he thought threw a drink at him. Number 9, 1968 and 1969 Los Angeles Lakers. Wilt Chamberlain may have been one of the greatest players of all time, forever remembered for his record-breaking 100-point performance, but he let his arrogance get to him and that caused the Lakers to eventually lose in the finals that season. After joining the Lakers, Chamberlain's $250,000 salary was the highest of any player at the time. The Lakers were excited to introduce a 7'1" center to a team that already included Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, but Chamberlain was always more fascinated with boosting his individual statistics than actually winning the game for his team. His cocky attitude lost him the respect of teammate Elgin Baylor and eventually even head coach Butch Van Bredekolf. Number 8, 1996 and 1997 Miami Heat. Forget LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade for just a second. How about the older, hated Heat trio of Alonzo Mourning, PJ Brown, and Tim Hardaway? After Pat Riley stepped down as Knicks head coach in 1995, there was already a lot of bad blood between the Heat and the Knicks. But things only escalated in the 1997 Eastern Conference semifinals. After the Knicks quickly gained a 3-1 lead on the Heat, Game 5 was highlighted by a brawl that started when PJ Brown flipped Charlie Ward over his head and body slammed him after Ward attempted to get a rebound. Number 7, 1997 and 1998 Utah Jazz. John Stockton and Karl Malone led the Jazz to the franchise's only 2 finals appearances. And the duo is considered an all-time great at running the pick and roll, but that pick and roll wasn't always legal. Malone was believed to be dirty by tons of people around the league, but he constantly got away with calls. He was known for throwing reckless elbows, such as when he elbowed Isaiah Thomas in the eye and Zeke needed 40 stitches, or for settling illegal screens, like when he literally picked up Clyde Drexler off the ground, leaving John Stockton with an open 3 to win the game. Stockton himself was also known for being a dirty player on the NBA. Number 6, 1985 and 1986 Boston Celtics. Like I said earlier, nobody likes a team that can just crush any competition in their way and cruise to a championship. It makes being a fan less fun if there's a super team that always beats your favorite squad. And there weren't many better super teams than the 85 and 86 Celtics. First of all, recognize that this is a team that had 5 Hall of Famers, not just 2 or 3, but 5. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, and Bill Walton. Now, clearly not all 5 players were in their prime. Johnson was no longer an elite guard, and Walton had been reduced to playing off the bench in his second to last season in the league. But the team just dominated all season long. Number 5, 2010 and 2011 Miami Heat. When compared to other teams on this list, the Heat didn't exactly have an amazing super team that couldn't be stopped. They were obviously exposed as having plenty of flaws when they lost the finals to the Mavericks, but it's the way in which the players alienated fans and left their old team to join the Heat that infuriated so many. Prior to the 2010 offseason, LeBron James wasn't really a hated player. He was a beloved star of the Cleveland Cavaliers, but after the decision, LeBron became the most hated player in the league for betraying his home state's team. He may not have deserved all the hate he got and is still getting, but sometimes fans are irrational. Now that the team is enjoying success and winning championships, people are trying to tease the players in any way they can. If they can't find a flaw in a player's game, they'll make jokes about LeBron's receding hairline, Bosh being soft or looking like a dinosaur, and Wade. Well, I suppose Wade is really only hated for being on the same roster as LeBron James. Number 4, 2000 and 2001 Portland Trail Blazers. Though the Jail Blazers were loved by their fans of Portland, their behavior disgusted the rest of the league's fans. Standing at the center of it all was Rasheed Wallace, who was issued 41 technical fouls over the course of the season, an NBA record. That season, Wallace also threw a towel at teammate Arvydas Sabonis and tried to charge coach Mike Dunleavy in the locker room. Perhaps the worst part of all this is that it wasn't just one season, it was a whole era. Number 3, 2001 and 2002 Los Angeles Lakers. Starting to see a bit of a pattern, this is the 3rd Lakers team in just 8 slides. But that's what happens when you have a big market, a history of winning, and some great talent that makes your team the team to beat. And that's just what the Lakers were in 2001 and 2002. Besides the obvious talent in Kobe and Shaq, other main players in the team included Derek Fisher, Rich Fox, and Robert Horry, among others. But Horry, although known for his many buzzer beaters, was a dirty defender, as were Fisher and Fox from time to time, which is why fans all hate him. Number 2, 1993 and 1994 New York Knicks. Between ferocious and tough defenders in Anthony Mason, Greg Anthony, and Charles Oakley, as well as John Starks and Patrick Ewing, the 1993 and 1994 Knicks were a tough, down-and-dirty team that were hated for chest-pounding, elbow-throwing, and generally dirty play. The team was extremely impressive defensively, and their gritty defenders and star Patrick Ewing took the team to the NBA Finals, where they would face Hakeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets. The Rockets eventually took it in 7 in one of the lowest rated and least watched finals of the decade. Number 1, 1988 and 1989 Detroit Pistons. The bad boys of Detroit were an absolutely frightening team to watch, and the type of easily detestable team that you wish to see fail. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Detroit's dirty play made them a great championship-winning team that could even compete against teams like the Lakers, Celtics, or Bulls. Why were they so dirty, you ask? The reason the team was hated lies completely on the shoulders of 3 players, Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman, and Rick Mahorn. All 3 players are generally infamous in the entire basketball community. Bill Laimbeer was the dirtiest and possibly the most hated player of his generation. He was practically the inventor of flopping, and between starting a brawl with Bird in the Celtics, getting in a brawl with Charles Barkley in Detroit, and hacking Jordan relentlessly, it's easy to tell why Laimbeer was considered such a villain. Meanwhile, the baddest boy of them all, Rick Mahorn, was also tough to like if you lived outside Michigan. Even when he wasn't in Detroit, he was extremely physical and would use his dirty style of play to intimidate opponents. And then, of course, there was Dennis Rodman, whose dyed hair on-court brawls and off-court personality made him an extremely hated player throughout his entire career. All 3 of those players are probably in the top 20 most hated players of all time. Combine all 3, and you've got yourself the super team of evil, the most hated team in NBA history. But we still got some honorable mentions, like the 1995 and 1996 Chicago Bulls. The reason the Bulls were hated by so many fans across the league is because you hate teams that you can't beat. Their 72-10 record that season was the greatest of all time, and that only made people envy them more and ultimately hate them more as well. And what about Dennis Rodman, one of the most hated players in NBA history? Surely they didn't make matters better. And also the 2006 and 2007 San Antonio Spurs. Alright, so this one could be a little biased coming from a Suns fan, but the Spurs were a classic example of a team playing dirty. The Spurs won their 4th title in just 8 seasons that year after sweeping the Cavs, but they got away with a little cheating. Ginobili and Parker brought their notorious flopping skills to the game, and Bowen and Horry constantly got away with blatant fouls on the court. We're talking hip checks, knees to the groin, trips, and everything in between. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like on the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.